Before the tux fittings, before the aisle and the applause, there was a night on a quiet Boston street when he told me he loved me, days before his wedding to someone else. I am Marcus, a calm voice you can trust, and this is our careful, compassionate story. It's a story about timing, truth, and the tender ways the heart insists on being heard. I'll guide you gently, like a physician holding a pulse, through choices, consequences, and the hope that kept us steady. Breathe with me, and let's walk this path together, step by honest step. All the way. If this kind of heartfelt, steady storytelling supports you, please like, subscribe, and share. Turn on notifications so you never miss a calming episode. Your comments guide future topics, and your presence matters here. Take a breath, settle in, and let's begin this gentle, honest journey together. Thank you sincerely. Thank you for being here. My name is Marcus Reed. I'm a physician by training and a listener by practice. I tell stories the way I hold a hand in a clinic, steady, compassionate, with the understanding that all of us carry something fragile that deserves care. This is not a scandal story. It is a story about two men in Boston who met at a quiet intersection of life and duty, and how truth arrived at precisely the wrong time and, somehow, the right time, too. I want to say something clearly from the beginning, especially for those of you who are older, who have lived long enough to know that love does not always follow rules. We were mindful. We tried to be kind. We did not set out to hurt anyone. We made mistakes, but we kept returning to the gentle aim of doing the least harm possible. Now imagine Boston in early fall, maples turning gold by the Charles River, a brisk wind carrying the smell of coffee and distant salt from the harbor. I had just finished a shift at the hospital, not his hospital, he was never my patient, and I was eating oatmeal at a corner table in the cafeteria trying to ground myself. The cafeteria is where people pretend they are not as tired as they are, where a lot of quiet truths are told over soup. That is where I first saw him, Ethan Hale. He smiled like he had just decided to forgive himself for something. Ethan wasn't in scrubs. He was in ordinary clothes, a gray sweater, jeans, running shoes. He hovered near the coffee station as if getting tea required permission. He glanced at me, then at the table beside me. The cafeteria was nearly full, mostly residents. With that swirling energy of youth and overwhelm, I did what I often do when I see someone searching. I lifted my hand and offered a seat. "Thank you," he said, careful, as if politeness was a habit his mother had stitched into him. I didn't want to interrupt. "You aren't," I said. "I'm Marcus." "Ethan," he replied, and we shook hands. His palm was cool, dry. He looked like the kind of person who collects good pens and writes thank you notes without being asked. We spoke about ordinary things, the wind, the soup of the day, the way Boston feels like an old friend once you've learned its moods. He told me he worked at a nonprofit that helped resettle families, that he ran along the river on Saturdays, that he was teaching himself to roast vegetables without burning them. He laughed a little at that last part, and it was the kind of laugh that tells you how he has weathered storms, with humor, with humility. I don't fall quickly. But I do notice when I feel better in the company of someone, as if my breathing evens and my shoulders lower. Sitting with Ethan felt like that. We did not exchange numbers. We parted with the pleasant, harmless hope of running into each other again. We did 1 week later at a street fair near Copley. He was carrying a bag of apples like a small harvest. "Marcus," he said, surprised and warm. "Would you help me pick a pie? I can't choose." I stood beside him and thought, this is how something begins. Some connections weave themselves without a plan. We started meeting once a week, not by arrangement so much as by gentle gravity. One of us would text, yes, by then we had exchanged numbers, with something simple. "Are you near the river? Busy? Want a coffee?" We joined a Saturday running group. That went more slowly than it said on the flyer. We bought paperbacks and traded them like postcards. He had a fondness for poets who simplified deep things. I was partial to writers who told the truth gently, and then told it again. We had different lives, of course. I had my patience and my early mornings, the soft gratitude that comes when you feel your work matters. He had his nonprofit meetings, the late nights drafting grant proposals, a habit of staying after events to stack chairs. He was good to people, not in a flashy way, but in the small, steady ways that make a city kinder. He carried spare gloves in winter, not for himself, but for the person who might need them. Okay, I hear you asking, Marcus, did you know he was gay? The honest answer is, I didn't ask. I never assume. We both kept the conversation respectful, open, easy. He mentioned a past relationship once in a way that could have been a former girlfriend or a former boyfriend. The ambiguity didn't bother me. It felt like standing in a doorway at dusk, where the light softens edges and you can see a path in either direction. Then, one afternoon at a bookstore in the South End, he said, I want to tell you something. And he looked at a shelf instead of at me. I'm engaged. The word sat between us. I felt the ache in my chest like a winter cough. I smiled because that's what kindness does in the first moment. Congratulations, I said, and I meant it, in the way that you mean you want someone you care about to be happy, even if it rearranges your own quiet hopes. Her name is Claire, he said. I stood very still. I will not pretend that I handled it perfectly. I went home, sat on my couch, and let silence do its slow work. I made tea. I folded towels. I told myself that liking someone who is engaged is not a crime. It's merely a feeling. Feelings can be held, observed, respected. You do not have to act on every emotion, the way you don't have to open every door just because it is not locked. When we met next, I asked to hear about Claire. He told me they had met in college, fallen out of touch, and reconnected when she moved back to Boston for a job in museum education. He spoke kindly of her, with warmth. She liked hiking and botanical gardens, tomato soup on rainy days, and the kind of shoes that do not hurt even when they are pretty. He thought the world of her. He had loved her once, in the way you love someone when you are 22 and certain the map is permanent. So I did what I try to do for my patients when a difficult truth emerges. I stayed present. I listened. I contained my own story, so his could be the one we held. We still ran by the river. We still traded books. I attended an art opening with him because Claire's museum was sponsoring it. I met her briefly. She was kind, sincere, with eyes that noticed when someone was left out of a conversation. I need to say this. I did not intend to be the man who complicated their life. I also need to say this. Nothing at that point had complicated anything. My feelings were mine to manage. I am grown. I know how to be responsible for my heart. But life has a way of circling back to places we thought we had decided to leave. Here is the night I want to place carefully in your hands. It was 5 days before their wedding. Boston was humid, the way September can be when it refuses to let go of summer. I had not planned to see Ethan that evening. I was at home, preparing a talk on patient listening. My phone buzzed. Ethan, are you awake? I need to walk. We met near the river. The lamps along the path cast pools of yellow light that felt like warm rooms we could step in and out of. He was quiet at first. Then he said, I can't seem to breathe. We found a bench. He folded his hands the way you do when you are, holding yourself together. I need to say something, he said. And I know the timing is awful. I respect you, and I respect her. I am trying to be a good person. He took a careful breath, and his shoulders shook the way a cord vibrates after you touch it. Marcus, I love you. I listened to the river. I listened to my own pulse. I would be lying if I told you that I wasn't relieved, or that the Hopeful part of me didn't lift its head like a flower turning to the sun. But I would also be lying if I told you that joy was the only thing I felt. There was fear, sorrow, concern for Claire, whose kindness did not deserve to be interrupted by this moment. Concern for Ethan, who stood at a cliff of truth with a ceremony, waiting on the other side. I put my hand over his, not entwined, just cover over cover, the way you steady someone when they are dizzy. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "Tell me more." He told me about the last 6 months, how he had tried to not feel what he felt, how the presence of me had complicated his certainty. He said he had loved Claire once, and he still loved her in a way, but not in the way you need to love someone to marry them. He said he had tried to tell himself that love was compromise. He had tried to be practical. He had tried to be who his family expected him to be, and then he asked me the question I least wanted to answer. What should I do? Let me pause here and speak like the doctor I am. When someone asks you to decide their moral course, step gently. Offer clarity, not commands. If you are listening to this, and you have been in a similar place, perhaps not with love, but with any decision that feels heavier than your hands, remember, your job is to tell the truth and to act in a way that lets you respect yourself tomorrow. Sleep, I told him. Eat. Hydrate. Tell Claire what is true, even if the truth is not fully formed. Tell her you are confused. Tell her you love her and don't know if it's the right kind of love to marry. Do not let her walk down an aisle without the information she deserves. He asked if I'd stay on the phone with him when he talked to her. I said no. Not because I didn't want to help, but because some conversations must be held between the people they concern. You can do this, I said. I believe in your kindness. The next day, he called. Claire cried quietly, he said. She asked whether there was someone else. He told her there was someone he cared for, but that the central truth was his uncertainty, the unsolved math of his heart. She asked if it was a man. He said yes. She was stunned, hurt. She was also, this is who she is, respectful. She wanted to understand the whole of what was happening, not only the slice that cut her. They decided to pause everything and talk to their families. I want to speak again to those of you listening who have lived long lives in communities with expectations. We are all taught to be something. Some of us were told to be brave. Some were told to be quiet. Some of us were told that love looks one way and is wrong if it looks another. When Ethan told his parents his mother cried the way mothers cry when the future they pictured redraws itself. His father became very quiet and asked logistical questions because logistics are easier than grief. In time, they would come around to understanding. That first week, they mostly held their breath. Claire's parents, equally stunned, focused on their daughter. They should have. They reminded her that she deserved a love that wanted to be there without hesitation. They were gracious and protective at the same time. In small cities and tight circles, news travels like weather. It moves fast and surprises you on your porch. Ethan's friends texted him, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" Some of them said the wrong thing in the way people do when they are afraid of saying the right thing. But a few said the words that matter most. "We love you. We're here. We'll be here tomorrow too." We did not see each other for 3 days. That space was deliberate. It wasn't punishment. It was air. Sometimes you need to step back so each person can listen to their own interior voice. I worked. I made soup for a neighbor. I ran slowly over the bridge and counted the gulls. I tried to let the river do a little of my worrying. On the 4th day, Ethan texted, "Could we meet at the small park near the library?" I arrived and found him sitting on a low stone wall, a paper bag beside him. He looked tired. He looked relieved. To see me. "I gave the ring back," he said. His voice didn't break. It softened. We cried. We laughed once. because the florist said they could reassign the peonies if we decided quickly. Claire said she doesn't hate me. I don't think she will ever love me again the way she did, but she said she hopes I will love someone fully. She said love should not have to get permission from fear. I sat with that, the way you sit with a warm mug in winter, palms wrapped around it. "I have something for you," he said, and he passed me the paper bag. Inside it was a small box, a watch box, the kind you get when you save for something meaningful. He pressed his lips together. "My grandfather's watch," he said. "He gave it to me when I got my first job. It still runs if you wind it. It's not a promise. It's time. The reminder that time can be used, not just endured. I want to be careful with time. I want us to be careful." I shook my head. "No," I said, gently, returning the box. "Not now. Not because of all this. It's too heavy to hold right now. Keep it. Wear it. Let it be your companion while you figure yourself out. If there is a moment for gifts, it will come when there is less sorrow attached to the wrapping." He nodded, grateful, relieved, a little amused. "You are steady in a hurricane, Marcus." "Not always," I said, "but I try to be a reliable roof." We walked to a diner and ate pancakes in the middle of the afternoon. He asked if we could take things slowly. He said he needed therapy, space, time to learn how to be honest with himself in ways he had not been trained to be. I said yes to all of that. I wanted the long road, not the shortcut that breaks a wheel. We didn't plan it this way, but small rituals filled the day the wedding was supposed to happen. Ethan called Claire in the morning to be sure she had someone with her. She did. He sent flowers, not the wedding flowers, but something simple and sincere, with a note that said, "Thank you for the years. Thank you for this ending with dignity." She wrote back, "Go learn your heart." In the evening, after all the would-have-beens had passed like fog that never quite landed, we met at a small hill above the city. People had flown in for a wedding that didn't occur. Some were angry. That is their right. Most were understanding. Life is not a straight path. It curves like the river, and you navigate the bend by going slower and keeping your eyes where you want to end up. We sat side by side. We did not hold hands. We watched the city lights blink on one by one, as if each building was deciding in its own time. He exhaled. "Thank you," he said, "for nothing in particular and for everything in general." "You did the hard part," I said. He shook his head. "No. You did the kind part. You kept boundaries. You could have made this easier for yourself by pushing me to choose you. You didn't." "I wanted to meet us in a place we could be proud of," I said. "It's hard to stand somewhere tomorrow if you don't like how you got there today." For those listening who crave a kiss here, a dramatic, cinematic moment, I understand. Life gives those sometimes. It did not give us that on that hill. It gave us something quieter. Trust. The kind that does not demand, that says, "I will be here while you learn." In the weeks that followed, there were messages to return, logistics to untangle, deposits to reassign. Ethan and Claire's friends divided tasks like you might divide a big project. A wedding is not only two people, it's a small economy. They tried to loosen knots without tearing fabric. It wasn't flawless, it was human. Ethan started therapy with a counselor who specialized in coming-out journeys and complex grief. He called me after the first session and said, "I didn't know how many rooms there are in me." I told him that sounds exactly right. He went to the gym. He baked bread badly and then less badly. He visited his parents and listened, then spoke, then listened again. His father asked blunt questions about what this meant for his future. His mother cried when he said, "I want you to still be proud of me." She held his face and said, "I never stopped. We set rules for ourselves. We did not spend nights together." We carved out 2 evenings a week where we didn't text, specifically to remember who we were alone. We saw movies in quiet theaters where conversation afterward was the main event. We cooked. I taught him how to roast vegetables without burning them, a promise kept from that first cafeteria lunch. We met with his therapist once for a joint session to talk about pacing. I recommend this, by the way. When life is complicated, let professionals help hold the map. People ask me gently, curiously, why I believed in this. I said, because he told the truth when it was hardest. Because he chose integrity over performance. Because he is the kind of man who returns the ring with a thank you and not a complaint. Because he loves in ways that share the blanket. Winter came early that year. Snow made the city quiet, like holding your breath and feeling for your heartbeat. We walked the river path in boots, our words making small clouds. We spoke practically: money, health insurance, families, time. We also spoke tenderly: favorite songs, childhood fears, the first time he understood that he liked the way a man's voice sounded in a dark theater. He had known for years in a way he hadn't named. He had called it feeling out of place. He had tried to solve it by fitting more tightly into the place he was given. That didn't work. Coming out is not a single door you walk through. It is a hallway with many doors, some of them locked by time, some by memory. He opened one, then another. He told his college roommate, who hugged him and said, "I wondered, but you know, you were you, so it didn't matter." He told his grandmother, who said, "We love you. Do you need pie?" She made blueberry, and he ate it with relief. Some nights we simply read in the same room. I want to say that out loud because intimacy is not only fireworks. Sometimes it is a deep sofa, 2 blankets, and the comfort of shared quiet. It is also telling the truth about schedules. As older folks know, stamina is not only for running. It is for conversation, for grief, for honesty. We rested when we needed to. We learned which topics needed morning light and which could be safely held in the evening. I wore the watch once, just to feel its weight. He had given it to me on a snowy night, not as a binding, but as a blessing. "I want you to have it," he said, "because you kept time for me when I couldn't." I accepted it then, not because I needed proof, but because it had become light enough to hold. Spring arrived like a good decision, slowly, then all at once. Tulips shouldered out of the ground. The harbor smelled like salt and newness. One afternoon, a letter came in the mail for Ethan. The handwriting was careful, the kind you use when you want your words to arrive intact. It was from Claire. She wrote what only a person of great steadiness could write. "I am healing. I hope you are too. I have thought about anger, and I have thought about kindness. And I choose kindness because it feels like the long road, and I want to end up somewhere generous. I would like us to be okay in time. I do not mean friends of the kind who call every week. I mean the kind of okay where we can see each other at a farmer's market and bless each other's cart." She wrote to me, too, in a postscript. "Marcus, we've never really spoken beyond the politeness of events, but I know who you are in the shape of the choices you made. Thank you for being careful with the timing and for encouraging honesty. Please take good care of him. Please help him take good care of himself. I know people who would have framed that letter. We kept it in a drawer. Its value wasn't in display. It was in the way it changed the air. We sent her a note in return. No grand gestures, just gratitude. She did not owe us grace. She gave it anyway. This is the place in the story where some of you might be asking, did Ethan and I finally let our hands be what they wanted to be? Yes. On a day so ordinary, we could not call it cinematic. We were washing dishes, passing plates like a quiet dance, and I turned to say something about the way light had fallen on the table, and he was looking at me like people look when they have found shelter at last. We let the moment be itself. It was not a rescue. It was 2 people arriving at the same time to the same threshold and stepping quietly through. I want to talk about the gentler bricks of building a life, because they matter more than the dramatic ones. We set a budget. We took turns making dinners, even the funny meals where the rice was somehow both undercooked and overcooked. We bought a plant we expected to kill and did not. We went to Pride, not because we needed rainbow confetti to validate us, but because it felt right to stand in a street with strangers and feel the city say, loudly, yes, you get to be here. You have always gotten to be here. He taught me how to fix a cupboard door that kept falling open. I taught him the joy of labeling spice jars. He showed me pictures of himself as a little boy in a cape made of a towel. I showed him the forehead scar I got at 7 when I ran into a coffee table during a game of astronaut. We learned that the other person's weaknesses were not problems to solve, but places to be gentle. There were hard weeks. There always are. One spring, a friend from his old circle said something unkind at a party, and we left early, quiet and unspeaking. He cried in the car in the way you cry when you are so tired of explaining who you are. I pulled into a parking lot and put my hand on the back of his head. We did not talk for a while. Then we did. We talked about boundaries, about how you do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. We also talked about compassion for people who are learning at a different speed than we are. Compassion? Yes, but not at the cost of self-respect. We told our story to my parents during a weekend visit where we cooked a ridiculous amount of food, because courage often needs carbohydrates. My mother cried the soft tears of someone relieved that her son is loved. My father asked Ethan if he liked baseball and found, bless us all, that they could talk for 40 minutes about outfield strategy. Family is often made of unexpected bridges. I promised you a story told like a physician listening for a pulse, and I want to end that way. If you are someone who has loved the wrong person at the wrong time, hear me. Your feelings are not crimes. Your actions are your responsibility. There is a way to move with integrity even when your heart has just shown you a map with a sudden left turn. That way begins with honesty, continues with boundaries, and endures with kindness. If you are someone who is engaged and confused, if you recognize yourself in Ethan, take a slow breath. You are not alone. Confusion is information. It is not a failure. Talk to the person you are about to marry. Tell them the truth, even if that truth is simply, I do not know. Do not walk someone down a road of forever if your step falters each time you imagine the door closing behind you. You both deserve a love that wants to be there from within, not a love that arrives only because it is expected from without. If you are someone like Claire, if your heart has been rearranged by another's truth, please receive my respect. You matter. Your grief matters. Your future is not lesser because this relationship ended. It may, in fact, be richer because you refuse to be loved from a distance when you deserve to be loved up close. Claire taught us grace is not the same as permission. It is the art of releasing the weight that is not yours to carry. For the elders among us, for the seniors listening who know the rhythm of decades, thank you for staying with me. You know better than most that hearts do not retire. They continue to learn, to open, to ask. You know the value of patience, of quiet companionship, of the way an afternoon can be a kind of healing. You taught us to sit, to listen, to let a kettle hum its small song while we consider what is next. We learned from you. We are trying to honor that. And to the younger ones who might think we should have kissed earlier or dramatized the before the wedding. Confession into a movie scene. I see you. Movies are lovely. They can be honest. But real life often protects the people in it by choosing soft light over spotlights. We chose not to make a spectacle of our crossroads. We chose to make it a conversation. That, to me, was braver. Ethan and I are still here. We still run by the river on Saturdays when the air is kind. We still stop at the same cafe where he once hovered at the coffee station. The barista knows our names. Sometimes, when we get up to leave, he touches the watch on my wrist, and I think about the day he tried to give it to me too early, and how time became a friend when we let it move at its own speed. There will be other challenges. Life does not stop asking you to grow. But we have a practice now. We tell the truth. even when it is inconvenient. We keep boundaries we can respect in the morning. We take turns holding the heavy things. We speak gently to our past selves, because they were doing the best they could with the light they had. I'll end with this. Love is not proof of goodness. It is an invitation to become good for each other. Ethan loved me before his wedding. He told the truth. He chose not to go through with something that would have turned his life and Claire's into rooms of quiet ache. We all lived. We all learned. And on certain evenings, when the city hums its low hymn, we sit on a hill above Boston, look at the lights coming on, and bless the late arrival of honesty, the way it faces us toward home.